Are you getting ready to plan a trip to Universal Orlando? Well, you want to stick around because this video is for you. Hey, it's John Day, and I just wanted to make a quick video here to kind of go over some great ways to plan for a trip to Universal Orlando. Now, I've been a lot, so I've learned a lot of things. I've still got a lot of things to learn, so maybe you can help me with some ideas as well. But I just wanted to go through a few things that may help you in planning your next trip to Universal Orlando. Now, obviously, one of the very first things you're going to have to figure out is, when do I go? And that's kind of a question I get asked a lot. Most of us, we have to go if we have kids when they're out of school. Sometimes we can do solo adult trips, but we don't tell them about that. But mostly it's going to be the summer, maybe it's going to be the winter when they have break for Christmas, Thanksgiving, that kind of stuff. So are those busy times? Yes. But there are ways to make it less busy when you're there, or feel less busy when you're there, and still have an incredible time at Universal Orlando. I'll get into some of those options later on. But you just have to go with what works best for your family. If you're okay with taking your kid out of school, which I've done before, and having them miss a couple days of school and like a Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend, that's totally fine. It's totally up to you when to go. Now, they say the best time is right in the first couple weeks of September, just because most kids are in school in most of the country. Halloween stuff has started, HHN has started, but it's not as insane as it is once you get into October. So there's a sweet spot of a couple weeks where it's not too crazy. I was actually looking today. This is on September 5th. I was actually looking today, and Hagrid's was a 45-minute wait in the middle of the day, which is actually unheard of if you know anything about that ride. So you just have to pick and choose what works best for you, what's going to work best for your family, and that's when you go. Now, what's next? How do I get there? So for me, I live in the Atlanta area, so a direct flight from Atlanta to Orlando is about 45 minutes in the air, so it's super easy. Yes, I've been known to jump on those budget carriers, but hey, when it's 25 bucks each way, even though you had to pay for baggage, it's going to cost me less to fly than it is for gas in my car there and back. Plus, I'm not a long distance driver kind of a guy. I don't love a road trip. So being in the car for 8 or 9 hours and wasting what I feel like is a day that I could be riding Velocicoaster is not something that I like. But that may not be you. So you just choose whichever works best for you. It may be super expensive to fly and it's cheaper for gas to drive. That's totally up to you. I will say, if you are going to drive, do note that a lot of the resorts do require you to pay to park your car overnight. So they'll ask you that when you check in, and then you can let them know, hey, I flew, or I don't have a car, or I do have a car, and that's going to get added to your bill. So just keep that in mind and add that into your budget as you're planning. Perfect. So your trip's ready. You're on your way. What do you do when you get there? If you've driven, you can just drive directly to whatever resort you're staying at. Easy as that. If you flew, there are some special shuttles that will take you back and forth. None of the Universal Orlando resorts actually have a shuttle to the airport. You would have to get that separately through Universal Orlando or some other way. I usually just jump on an Uber or a Lyft. It's super cheap from Orlando to where I usually stay at Aventura or one of those resorts over there. It's usually about a $30 to $40 charge depending on what time I'm there. So it's very easy. But that's how you get to the resort. So you can just drive there directly. You can hop in an Uber. If you do fly, you just need to know there's no reason to even have a car if you don't need one. So if you're planning on going to some of the other places, you can still Uber. Or if you're driving, you obviously can drive your car. Maybe you're going to visit SeaWorld or one of the other theme parks around Orlando. You can do that. But if you're strictly just going for Universal Orlando, every single Universal Orlando resort, and even some of the off-sites, will have shuttles directly to the park. Now, the off-site ones don't actually have one that's continuously going. They schedule those, and you sometimes have to book a seat or you won't be able to get there. But all of the Universal Orlando resorts do have transportation, and we'll get to exactly what those have in a little bit. Okay, so now you figured out when you're going to go, how you're going to get there, and what to do when you get there. So let's move on to talking about the Universal Orlando resorts. I highly recommend staying on the property. The amenities that you get from staying on property are incredible. You get early park admission, you get transportation to and from the parks. You can even make a purchase inside of the park of some kind of souvenir, say a robe from Harry Potter World. Well, it's 95 degrees outside and you don't want to carry that robe around or wear it, and you have nowhere to store it. You can have that shipped to your Universal Orlando Resort hotel and pick it up when you get back from your park all day. So there's a lot of amenities. Now, I understand not everyone can afford to stay on property. It's honestly not as expensive as you would think compared to some of the other theme parks around the Orlando area. But I completely understand. I've gone with friends before who don't have the annual pass holder discount like I do, and we've been able to find a resort off property. That's great too. But a couple things to keep in mind. So, Universal Orlando has a few types of levels when it comes to the resort. So they have a value, a prime value, preferred, and then premier. So the value hotel is only one, and that is Endless Summer. So one of the things that you need to know about Universal Orlando Resorts is it's a really cool feature. You can actually pool hop. So say I'm staying at Aventura. If you know anything about them, their pool's not very large, but right across the parking lot is Sapphire Falls, which has an incredible pool. So you can actually walk over, use that pool. They'll give you a key, they'll let you in. You're allowed to do that. With Endless Summer, it is the only resort that you're not allowed to pool hop. And it's further away from all the other resorts because it's on its own, but it's massive and it's going to be the lowest cost hotel that you can stay at on property. You still get the buses to and from the parks. There's a huge cafeteria inside. They actually have a couple pools and their pool bars are great. It's a lot of fun. I've stayed at Endless Resort before and I really enjoyed it. Now, the prime value is going to be two different hotels. That's going to be Cabana Bay, which I'm going to have a video coming on when I go to stay there in a month, and then Aventura, which I really like. Cabana Bay is huge, and it's going to have a ton of rooms. It's really geared towards children. Has one of the biggest pool slide area that I've ever seen. It's incredible. Aventura is right across the street. Now, this is a hotel that's geared more towards adults. So if you are not going with kids, this is a great hotel. They have a rooftop bar. You can see all Universal property. You can even see some Disney property. You can see a lot of things. So it's a really cool place to hang out. The best part about this resort, though, is that the Starbucks on the inside always has the lowest line because the hotel is not as expansive as a lot of the other hotels. Then right across the street from Aventura is Sapphire Falls. Now, this is a great hotel. I've actually not had the chance to stay at Sapphire Falls because I just prefer Aventura. But Sapphire Falls is the only preferred resort, and it's got some great amenities. The rooms are really nice. It's got a great restaurant downstairs, but the big draw for a lot of people is it's the first hotel that allows you to take the water taxi to the parks. Now, if you're not familiar with transportation to and from the parks, all of the resorts offer bus transportation, but some of the resorts also offer a water taxi, which takes you through the canal and drops you off right next to the Universal Globe. So you skip all that walking through City Walk, and also you go through security before you get on the boat, so you don't have to go through the crazy security at City Walk with everybody walking in that's parking and everything else. So it's actually a nice little feature. Little hint, if you stay at Aventura or even if you stay at Cabana Bay, which is across the highway, you can actually walk to Sapphire Falls or walk to any of the other resorts that offer water taxi and jump on the water taxi. So that is something you're allowed to do. No big deal. We do it all the time with Aventura, but sometimes on a hot day, the AC in that bus is just what you're dreaming of. And getting on a boat, even though it's a cool experience, is just not something you're ready for some cool air. So completely understand that. So Sapphire Falls would be their preferred. So then we go to the premier resorts. So these are going to be the most expensive, and I'll tell you why. But those are going to be Royal Pacific, Portofino Bay, and Hard Rock. Now, these are the closest to the parks. So walking is actually really nice from some of these. They also offer the water taxi, but here's the biggest thing. And this is something that you need to decide if it makes sense for you and your family. They offer the Unlimited Express Pass, which is a huge cost that I'll get into later when I talk about ticketing, but they give it to you for free. So let me tell you how that works. Everyone in your party that's staying in that room, so per room, say you have 5 people staying, it's 2 adults and 3 kids, they're all staying in the room. Every single person gets that Unlimited Express Pass. You just use your key card for the hotel when you walk up to the Express Pass line, and they are able to scan it that way. The good thing about that is, say you're not getting there till Tuesday, so your check-in is Tuesday night. You can get there as early as you want. They'll go ahead and give you that key card, and you can use that Unlimited Express Pass on your check-in day as well as your checkout day. So you have a couple extra days on the end. So this makes a lot of sense, especially if you have a larger group staying. Maybe you're staying in one of the family suites, so you're splitting costs amongst a bunch of people. This makes a lot of sense because those express passes can get up to almost $300 per day for the unlimited version in really busy times of the year. So this is a really good benefit that maybe you can just go through and look at the cost and see if it makes sense for you. Maybe the Express Pass is not something that some of the people need because they're not going to ride a bunch of rides. Everything in Universal Orlando Resort now takes Express Pass except for Hagrid's, which most of us who go there are still not happy about that, but it is what it is. But even Velocicoaster takes the Express Pass now. So it is a huge benefit to staying at those resorts. These resorts are usually a $200 to $400 more than, say, like the value resort of Endless Summer. And as you kind of climb up, obviously the cost climbs up, but it's a really good option. I have not had the chance to stay there because I have free Express Pass with my annual pass after 4 p.m. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for me cost-wise to do that. But I know a lot of people who have gone and have been absolutely loving it, and they would have saved probably $500 to $600 over if they would have just bought the Express Pass throughout the day. So that is a huge thing. A lot of people love the Hard Rock Hotel's pool. They say it's their favorite pool. I've yet to jump into that one because when I'm there, I'm riding rides and going and going. But yeah, so those are kind of the resorts. So again, you have the value, which is Endless Summer. You got Prime Value, Cabana Bay, Aventura. You got Sapphire Falls as the only preferred. And then you have Royal Pacific, Hard Rock, and Portofino Bay as your premier resorts. That includes that unlimited Express Pass. Okay, now we're getting really into it. You've decided how you're going to get there, all that stuff. You decided on what resort you're going to stay at. Maybe you got the premier with those unlimited Express Passes. We got to talk about ticketing. Now, like I said before, I'm an annual pass holder. So the ticketing piece, I don't really have to think about, but I have done that in the past before I became an annual pass holder. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. Number of days are going to be a big factor because the thing about Universal Orlando is they do a lot of special pricing. So they may say, buy 2 days, get 2 days free. There's some great deals they have going on all the time. Just go to the Universal Orlando website and you can find those deals out and when they're running. But they do have a lot of deals like that. So the longer you stay, the better. Now, if they don't have a deal like that, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that you have to think about is how many parks do you want to go to? I would 100% suggest do not do just one park. You at least would want to do Universal Studios Orlando and Islands of Adventure. The thing about those, if you've never been, you can walk in between. The other thing is you can also take the Hogwarts Express from one to the other, which is a really cool experience. But either way, if that line is 100 years long, like it usually is because it's such a cool experience, you can walk out of the front of the park, walk across the Universal City Walk, right in front of the Hard Rock Cafe, walk over to Islands of Adventure, and vice versa. It's super easy. Now, the third park that they have is Volcano Bay. That's their water park. Now, that park is not within walking distance to the other two parks. It's a little bit of ways away, so you do have to take a shuttle over there. You can do that directly from your resort, or you can do that from City Walk buses, and you'll be able to get over there from that. Now, do I think Volcano Bay is worth it? I think it's an incredible water park. Depends on what time of year you go. It's Orlando, so most of the time it's going to be warm enough for a water park. It's one of the cooler water parks I've ever been to, but it does get really busy. So if you're going to do that, it might just be something that you do for the day. So you wouldn't want to do that plus one of the other parks. It just becomes a lot. But I would suggest at least a park to park between Universal Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Orlando. I would suggest that 100%. So what is the cost? Well, the cost again varies by day, much like some places like Disney and other places like that. It depends on how busy it is at that time of year. So the one park versus the 2-part pass isn't usually that much different. It's probably, I think when I've done it, it's been about $50 difference between just one park versus 2-part. And you can do both parks in a day. There's a lot to do, but there's not enough to do in just one central park for you to just say, I'm going to go to one park a day. Now, you may be a person who says, I want to see anything and everything. Then maybe you can spend a whole day. The thing you need to know is the Universal parks are not open as late as, say, like Disney or some of the other ones. It's just the way they are. They usually close. If it's summertime, it's like 9 o'clock, but usually when it's not busy, they're closing at like 7, maybe 8 o'clock. So just keep that in mind as well. So I would definitely suggest the park-to-park ticket. Now, that's probably going to run you around normally between $199 to maybe like $250 per person. Again, it depends on the day, so you're going to have to take a look at that and figure out if that's something that makes sense for you, and then, kind of go from there. But please check the Universal Orlando website. You can click on the days that you want to go, how many days that you want to go, and then you can price out your tickets from there. Okay, so we're doing it. Park-to-park tickets. We're going to ride Hagrid's. We're going to ride Velocicoaster. We're going to ride Escape from Gringotts, do some Men in Black shooting. We're ready to go. Now, I can only go at a busy time. It's in the middle of summer. All the schools are out. It's going to be hot, unfortunately, but it's still going to be a great time. So how do I navigate the park in that situation? Well, two things. One, if you're staying on a Universal Orlando resort, you can absolutely take advantage of that early park admission. It's usually about an hour before the park actually opens. Just depends. A lot of times lately, it's been Islands of Adventure only. They used to also do Universal Orlando Studios Orlando. I haven't seen that one as much be open. I think because they know that everybody's running to Hagrid's. But that's totally up to you. But that you can take advantage of that. And number two, like I mentioned a little bit before, the Express Pass. If you're staying at a Universal Orlando resort, that's a premier resort, you got it. You don't have to worry about anything. You can take your hotel key card, like I mentioned, walk up to the Express line, and you could ride the same ride over and over again all day through Express and never have to worry about how long of the wait it is. If you're not staying at a premier resort, you can purchase the Express Pass. There are two options to the Express Pass. Number one is just a one-time use. So like myself, I'm a Premier Pass holder. So after 4 p.m., I can use the Express Pass one time on each ride that takes Express. So it's a great feature when you're an annual pass holder. And I'm going to have a future video on all the annual passes and what that looks like later. But for most of us, we're just buying tickets. So they do have the option for you can get the unlimited Express Pass or the one time. The one time you can just only go up and use it once per ride. Unlimited obviously means unlimited. You could ride Velocicoaster back to back to back. You might get a slight headache and you might pass out, but it's going to be fun. So those are the two options. Now, they run significantly high, especially during the busy times of the year. So I've seen the one-time use pass around 200. I've seen the unlimited as high as 300. So you're just going to have to, again, budget that in. And again, maybe it makes sense to stay at a premier resort so that you can get that benefit for free. Again, totally up to you on what you want to do. But I highly suggest it. If you're only coming, say this is your one trip and you're not going to come back for another couple years, I think it's well worth the cost. It's going to cut the wait time in half. So say something's an hour wait, you're going to wait 30 minutes or maybe even slightly a little bit less. So it's going to be helpful. Now, again, I mentioned this before previously that Hagrid's is the only one that does not take the Express Pass. Everything else takes the Express Pass. So this is a great option, especially again, if you're only coming this one time and you want to get everything you can out of the parks, everything you can out of your Universal trip. This is going to be the most great thing that you've chosen to do. I mean, it's absolutely wonderful to be able to get that Express line. And again, it is expensive, but you don't have to think about it. I know some of the other ones have different ways that they do that. It's a little confusing. This is straightforward. You pay for it, you use it. It's really easy. Now, one last thing is sometimes they'll have the Express Pass after 4 for sale. That's going to depend on how busy the day is. But you can, as the day goes on, go up to one of the guest services places or just go to where they sell the Express Pass and ask, hey, are you selling today the Express Pass after 4? You can purchase that. It's usually slightly cheaper because you can only use it from 4 to the time that they close, which at those times when they do actually have it being sold, it's going to be closing around 7 or 8 o'clock. So it's going to be one of those earlier nights. But still, you're going to have 4 hours to really just go and start doing everything. It's the one-time use Express Pass. It's basically the exact same thing that Premier Pass holders get. But it's a great option for a little bit cheaper option if you're getting there closer to 4 o'clock throughout the day and you're like, man, we have so much more we want to do. We haven't been able to do it. It's a good option to go and see if they're actually selling them. They don't always sell it, but sometimes they do. And it's a great option. So I highly recommend the Express Pass, especially if this is going to be your only trip for a while or it's your first trip. Okay, the very last thing to think about is this: eating. We love food, we love theme park food, and there's a lot of it. I'm going to have some videos later on that's going to talk in depth about the different quick service places, the different sit-down restaurants. I'm going to go through all that. But one of the things that will change the way you do parks is making reservations. So there's not a lot of Universal restaurants that actually take reservations, but there are some. So if you go to Universal Orlando's website, you can click on a reservation and you can go ahead and book that. Now, these don't get crazy busy like, say, a Disney resort where everybody's trying to get it like 6 months in advance and all that. You can sometimes go the day of or the day before and really make a reservation at one of these, but there are some to do that. Now, this is awesome because the quick services can get very, very, very busy, especially if you're going at a busy time of the year. you might be waiting in line for 30, 45 minutes to get a slice of pizza or something like that. So these reservations are going to be super helpful. You got to set time. It's just nice to be able to sit down in some AC, especially when it's hot. So really think about reservations and look into that. If you go on the Universal Orlando website, they are going to show you all the ones that actually take reservations. You can make a reservation today for a year from now. It doesn't really matter. They're going to go ahead and put you in. You get a text message and email. It's a really cool way. You walk up, you check in, and it's great. And I'm going to, again, have a video that's going to really go into depth on how to do that process. But for now, if that's something you want to think of and you just don't want to have to worry about having to wait in long lines because you're waiting in lines all day to ride stuff, reservations at certain restaurants that offer that is going to be the way to go. So we did it. We planned the perfect Universal Orlando vacation. It is so much fun, you guys. I know I've been rambling on about a lot. I love Universal Orlando. I have so much fun. Me and my family go there 3-4 times a year. It's one of my favorite places, and they're always doing new things. There's always something new to see. I would encourage you, look into annual passes. I'm going to do a video about that later, but this is going to be a great trip. If you're watching this video, you're planning a trip or you're thinking about planning a trip, do it. You're going to have so much fun. Yes, Harry Potter is a big draw for people, but there's so much more to Universal Orlando Resort that most people don't talk about. So really, research what you can do, research some of the rides they have, watch some of the POV videos. Universal has a lot themselves out there. You're going to have a great trip. And if you have any questions, please put those in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And again, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for all of your theme park content. And as always, remember, happiness is just a theme park away.